Ciao jewelry makers, I'm Joey Balistreri for those of you who don't know me, and it is one of those very exciting days of the month because my curated bead box came in and it is called Over the Rainbow and it is quite colorful. I have already unboxed it and I'm planning to do an abbreviated unboxing. And before I start, I actually wanted to ask all of you who regularly watch my videos to give me some input about how you feel about the unboxings. My thinking is to abbreviate them, show you an overview of what's in the box, maybe pull out what I plan to work with and what my favorite bits are, and move on, jump right into making something. But I would really like to hear from you. Do you prefer to have an unboxing where I go item by item in the box and tell you what I think and how it looks? And I just thought I would ask because most of us in the jewelry community watch quite a few creators and it feels like everyone is unboxing the same boxes that most of us get. So please, in the comments, give me your thoughts on that. But for today's project, I'm going to do a quick unboxing, and particularly on the curated bead box, because for those of you who do not get this box, it's a value box. It's about $20 a month and it's almost always just glass beads. We get marble style glass, we get glass pearls, but it is a value box. We don't get gemstones in this box. And we don't get Swarovski crystals and that kind of thing. But it's a fabulous box. You get very long strands of beads, but they always have a disclaimer on their box that tell you that bead sizes and types may vary due to availability. And it happens to me quite a lot, and it did again this month. I was supposed to have 4 strands of 10 millimeter beads, and I got 3 strands. Oh no, I did get the 4 strands of 10 millimeter beads. I was supposed to get 2 strands of 8 millimeter beads. I only got 1, and it is not a blue pink marble style glass. It's a glass pearl. And then there were supposed to be 2 strands of 6 millimeter pearls, but I got 4 strands and the colors don't match up to what the thumbnail on the box says either. That being said, I'm really excited because as I was taking this out of the box, I already had a great idea for what I wanted to make, and the 6 millimeter beads are my preferred size for the project, so my substitutions are going to work out great for me this month. And as I said, look how long the strands are in the curated bead box. It's wonderful. So we also got this stunning glass bead mix, and I know I'll be pulling some beads out of this for the project. And I live in Florida. I was so excited to see that we got flamingo charms in blue and pink, and we also got some of these little fishbone charms, and they are adorable. So I think I'm going to be using a charm in my project, but honestly, you could do earrings with this, you could make a charm bracelet with this. There's a lot of possibilities, and for those of you that don't live in a tropical place like I do, think about resort vacation jewelry that you can pack and take with you this spring and summer, or even when you're tired of winter. Give yourself a little summer vibe with these charms. So yeah, I'm really excited about the little charms, and I don't know if I've never gotten one of these in the curated bead box. It's that adjustable slider bracelet that you can add charms or dangles to, and I have a whole collection of these from Alex and Ani. So I've actually never made one, so they put one of these in our box this month, which is awesome. And then they are calling these gold medal polygon pendant. It sort of looks like a heart, maybe. Interesting. We've never gotten anything like this before, but I like it. I think it could be really fun in the creative process. But my project that I have in mind is going to be a bracelet, and it's going to be multi-strand, and I pulled out the colors of the 49 strand soft flex medium beading wire that I had in my stash that work good with these supplies. So I have to sort of choose the beads I'm going to be using and decide if I'm going to mix all three colors. My purple color, the purple amethyst color from Soft Flex, matches this bead beautifully, and I think this is going to be the ends of my multi-strand bracelet. Oh, and also we got this findings pack. It's either in silver or gold each month. This month is gold, which is my favorite, and you know, this is not to be looked down upon, because if you're new to jewelry making, you have a little sampling of anything you could want, from stretch cord to memory wire to head pins to lobster clasps, even eye pins in this one, ear wires. You know, so if you're new and you're still practicing and you're trying different things, this is awesome for you guys. For those of us that have a supply and we've been at it for a while, it's still wonderful. I can't tell you how often I reach into my bag of past supplies from Curated Bead Box and pull out the stretch cord. They give you fabulous stretch cord, or pull out the memory wire, or if you just quickly need a head pin or an eye pin. So, you know, even for those of us that do have a supply built up, it's really great. And the bead stringing wire is wonderful in here. I think it's usually 7 strand. I didn't take this one out yet, but so anyway, let me know how you guys feel about doing a really fast unboxing like this, or if you want more information from me. And if you haven't subscribed to the Curated Bead Box, think about doing it. It's a really great box. And of this, I am just in love with these purple beads with the little white Dalmatian dots on them. I love those. This is a really intense color. It's very hot pink. The camera may not be showing you what I'm seeing with my eye, but it's stunning. So a whole piece with this would be quite intense, and even a whole piece mixing all of these colors would be quite intense. So my idea is to do a floating bead multi-strand bracelet where there's a little bit of space, a little bit of air between all of these bright colors. I am not sure how I feel about the peach pearls in with the glass pearls. I may incorporate those, but look at the great long strands you get. So I'm going to clean up my mat and decide on my stringing material, and I will be right back with you. And I have a couple of things to share. I got a couple of new things I want to share with you, so I'll be right back. I cut all of the beads apart that I think I'm going to use in my pattern. Plus I have the little bead mix at the ready, and I've taken jump rings from our box and lobster claw clasps from our box, and also the little crimp beads. They are not crimp tubes, they are crimp beads. This month we got gold ones, but I have put all of those in my little salt dish, as well as some that I had from past Curated bead boxes, because I'm not sure how many I'm going to need. I'm not sure how many beads, so I just made a little dish. And then if you can see, there's one little crimp tube in there, because I am going to be using a 2x2 crimp tube and my magical crimping plier, as well as flat crimping. And for those of you not familiar with the magical crimping plier, it's a little bit different crimping tool. It only has one little well in it, and it takes a 2x2 crimp tube and turns it into a little tiny gold or silver or copper bead. So I just wanted to show you what works with that. There are the Beadsmith actual magical crimps that are simply 2x2, and I have this little variety assortment with gunmetal and copper and gold and silver. But the Beadalon 2x2 crimp tubes also work really well with this tool, and also the Soft Flex 2x2 crimp tubes work really well with it. So the main thing is that these are good crimp tubes. They have a nice thick wall. You can buy like very cheap thin crimp tube, but even with a regular crimping plier, sometimes you can break them in half. And if you're a person struggling to make good crimps, get a good crimp tube, because it makes all the difference in the world. And I also, before we get started on the bracelet we're going to make, I just wanted to tell you, for this bracelet, I have been, if you've watched any of my current videos, you know that I get a lot of inspiration from the runway fashion shows and the big designer fashion houses, and I watch Milan Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week, and I keep track of the Pantone colors that are trending and what's trending in jewelry. And so I'm trying in my pieces going forward, because I'm filming this before January 1st, and so you guys will not be seeing this until 2024. But one of the things that we're going to see a lot of that's really classic and timeless, no pun intended, are timepieces and watches. But literally, the trend is to wear them anywhere but on your wrist. So you're going to see timepiece rings and brooches and pocket watches and all kinds of innovative things. And it gives me the idea to take some old watch faces and do some fabulous upcycled jewelry. So I wanted to share that because I did get a new ring for 2024, and one of my new favorite little tools is the world's most adorable hammer. I just received this today from Amazon. It was a gift, and I can link it below. It comes with this little tiny, it's not really a bench block. It has these little feet, and it's really just a gorgeous little set. So I already hammered a little bit of 20 gauge wire just to see what this little guy can do, and it's really great. It gives you this nice sharp edge for texturing wire if you want to, and you have a nice flat surface for flattening wire. But I will say I tried to use this as a bench block, and it's not a great bench block, but the little hammer is fabulous. I think it's going to be my new baby. It's so pretty. It's even just pretty sitting on the side of the work table. So along with the trend of timepieces, we are going to be seeing flowers in jewelry, but statement flowers, one piece, a flower ring, a flower brooch, something like that. It's not going to be a flower explosion or a big floral thing, but just an accent of one beautiful flower somewhere in your ensemble. And also we're going to be seeing, last year I saw a lot of gold, and I still see a lot of gold, but designers are mixing gold and silver together. So we're going to be seeing pieces where gold and silver is back together again. And I'm going to do that in this piece, which is why my little flat crimps are going to be gold and silver. And I have out my gold and silver crimp tubes. And even in the little mix here, we have these pretty little beads, which I'll be using, that have a silver, metallic silver rim around the glass. So that is going to be really fun, and you can use up your supplies and mix things up and not be such a purist about things, which I tend to be. So it's nice to mix things up, and I think I am going to do gold lobster claw and then have some of this silver happening in my bracelet. So I decided to do a 3-strand bracelet, and to do I had strung my crimp tube on these 3, and I just saw it go into the dish. Okay, I have plenty more. I did decide to use these 3 colors of the soft flex wire. So they look really great when I lay them on the bead selection. So I have pink tourmaline, I have the turquoise color, and I have the purple amethyst color. And so I am going to put all 3 of these strands through one of those 2x2 silver crimp tubes. Okay, and actually you can use your pliers to help you. Let me switch hands. But this wire will actually fit in a 2x2 crimp tube. 4 wires will go in. So try maybe doing one at a time. You can hold your little crimp tube between your pliers just to give yourself, get your fingers out of the way of such a tiny little tube. But I'm going to feed all 3 of these wires in this crimp tube to start my bracelet. Okay, they're all in. And then I'm going to line them up, get them all the same. Actually, I don't want them all the same length. My pink one was the end of my spool, and it's a bit longer. So I'm going to use this pink tourmaline to make my loop. So I'm just going to bring it, and that's going to be the fourth wire going through this crimp tube. And for those of you who don't know, with the magical crimper, you need a minimum of 2 wires in the crimp tube to get the nice bead. And if you only have one, you can cut a little tiny scrap of wire, and it would be like a dummy wire to take up space inside of the tube. But you need at least 2, 3 works really well, and you can make 4 work. I've done it many times, as you see here. So let me just organize my wires a bit. I want to pull these down so I'm not wasting wire, because those little tails are going to get cut away. And I also don't want such a large loop, because this is where my lobster claw clasp is going to go. And let me just back this out a little bit, because my 2 wires have gone inside the loop and it'll be harder to cut them. Get the loop on this side. There, that's better. In fact, I think I'm going to, I'll use a jump ring, because then if I change my mind and I don't like the way the lobster claw clasp is working, if you put your clasp on with a jump ring, then if the jump ring, I'm sorry, let me back up. If you put your lobster claw clasp on with a jump ring instead of threading it right onto the bead stringing wire, if the lobster claw fails, it breaks, it gets badly tarnished or damaged in some way, or you simply decide you would prefer to put a toggle clasp on or a magnetic clasp, if you attach your clasp with a jump ring, then you have those options, you know, as you're wearing your bracelet and completing your bracelet. So I don't know if you can see. Let me try to pull these. Those are going to get cut away, and I just have this pretty little loop. All 4 of those strands are inside that crimp tube, and then I'm just going to fit that crimp tube right in the very center of the well in this crimping plier, and it's quite different from the other crimping pliers that have a back notch and then several working their way up. And then once you are sure that you have it in the middle, you just simply squeeze as hard as you can, bringing the pliers together. And when you take that away, you should see that the 4 corners of the crimp tube are pinched, and it looks a little bit like a ravioli. And then we're going to turn it the complete opposite direction. And like with most things, making jewelry is not a race, and you don't have to be super fast unless you're mass producing something, but I don't. And so just take your time and make sure that you have centered that little ravioli back in the well in the center of the tool, and then close the pliers in the other direction. And now you just want to keep that crimp tube in that little well and continue to open and close the pliers as you go around until you don't feel any resistance. And so what this plier is doing is turning a tube into a tiny little silver bead, and it's fabulous and it's strong. It works great on this 49 strand soft flex wire. I love it. So let's see what we have. It is perfection. Can you see how that crimp tube is now a little silver bead? And then I'm going to, as closely as I possibly can with my sharp, just cut away those little ends of the wire. And now this is ready. I can also trim this one away. Now this is ready for a clasp of any sort, and we are ready to start our bracelet. So I really wanted this purple bead on here, but it has, actually all the beads in this month's box have really large holes. So what I need to do is take a little bead from this mix, and I think I'm going to do one of these clear ones with the silver metallic ring around it. And so you see we have quite a few large hole beads in this mix, which is awesome, because all 3 of my wires are easily, get them straight, all 3 of my wires are easily going through that bead, and that's going to act as my sort of my stop bead at the end of the bracelet. And then I do want one, I'm just in love with these purple beads. And they go so great with the purple amethyst bead stringing wire. I need another crimp tube. I have one right here because I want to keep that purple bead in place. So I'm going to get all 3 of these wires in this crimp tube and do another little silver stop bead. Because I want that purple bead to stay. I want it to stay at the end. Yeah, it's not a bead yet, so it went inside the purple bead. But once I crimp it down, let me bring my magical crimping plier in and get a hold of it. I should have just made a ravioli and then turn it sideways. And now I'm just going to go around just like we did on the other end until I don't feel any resistance. And you can take it off. And so this purple bead is still, it is just got a really big hole. So I'll show you my trick for that. I am going to get a bead cover. I had a little interruption in filming, but while I was waiting to be able to film again, I took a crimp cover like you would use for a normal crimp and covered that magical crimped bead, and so now the large hole in this purple bead is not giving me any trouble anymore, and it's really pretty. And I mentioned that in another video that the beads that are made from the magical crimping plier are really small. They're perfect, they're beautiful, but sometimes in your design it is too small. So you can see the difference. Here's the plain one on this end, and it was too small for the hole in this bead, but you can still put a crimp cover right over the little bead that is made with the magical crimping plier. So that's what I did. And so now we're going to start with our bracelet, and I'm just going to start with one wire. Just pull out one wire. I'll start with the turquoise one, and I have done silver on the end of this bracelet, so I'm going to pick up, in fact, this little salt dish is going to give me trouble. Let me put some of these out here. I'm going to pick up a gold crimp bead and flat crimp it. I'm not going to measure anything. These beads are going to look as if they are floating on this bead stringing wire, and I want it to just be a random pattern, and it was my way to use all the colorful beads in this box. The glass style marble beads are just gorgeous in this box, but they're very bright, and there's a lot of movement in them because of the marble, so I didn't want a solid string of any of these beads. So I just am choosing this little space right here, and I'm going to just flat crimp this with my pliers and then start with a pink bead. And then I'm going to pick up another gold crimp bead, if it will go on my wire, and let it go down and flat crimp that right like that. So the bead can still spin this way, but it's going to stay where it is on the wire. And then let's take the purple wire and choose a bead for that. So maybe one of these sparkly, that one's pink. I want to alternate my colors a little bit. Here's a blue. So, I want my crimp tube first. So I'll stick with the gold, and I'm just going to come down a little bit, leave a little bit of negative space. I'm just going to come down and flat crimp right there and put this, let's see how pretty, this little blue glass bead with the metallic silver, and then pick up another one of these little crimp beads, flat crimp. And so yeah, I can see it still spin, I can still see. And so let's go to our pink tourmaline wire and put on another little crimp bead and choose its position. Let's see. This one can be right about there. Right about there. And then I think I'll do one of the blue and pink marble beads. And I am just going to continue in this way, choosing from my bead mix and alternating the pink, purple, blue, silver, gold, just all the way down the length of this bracelet until I'm happy with the way it is. And then when we get to the end, we can decide there if we want to braid the wires, like cross them over each other before we crimp down. We can see how all of our beads are going to land, but this is one of those times when a random, not so planned out pattern is going to be beautiful. So let me get to the other end, repeating that flat crimp bead, flat crimp, spacing it out, and then we'll finish off this end together. I've come to my desired length, and I think I am probably not going to braid my floating beads. I actually had an idea while I was randomly flat crimping and adding beads. So let's clasp this end off. I'm going to gather up all 3 of these wires and fit them into another one of those number 2 crimp tubes, just like we did on the other end, and make sure everything is as I want it before I crimp this down. And actually, before I crimp it down too, I'm just also going to check the length. I think I measured it pretty well. And yes, it's going to be about a perfect average size. I can wear a size 7, 7¼ bracelet. And so I'm just going to make my little ravioli on this end. As you can see, one more time, little ravioli. The four corners are pinched, and then put it in sideways and crimp down and just go around until you don't feel any resistance, until you can tell that the crimp tube has been formed into the little ball shape of that well that's in the middle of the pliers. And if you take it off and it's not great, you can always fit it back in, and mine's good, but you can always, fit it back in and go around a little bit more until you're happy with the shape. But I cannot believe what I just did. I'm going to leave this in the video because I forgot to loop this back down and make my loop on this end, but there is a way to fix it. I'm not going to lose my length of my bracelet. Let me get out another one of these crimp tubes, and there is a way to rescue. I was talking and forgot to loop my wire back in to the crimp tube, but let's see. I know that I want a purple bead here, and so you see I will need to put a crimp cover on that bead, so let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how I'm going to fix my mistake. So I'm just going to fit, and this is, a good little trick. So see that little crimped, magical crimping bead just fits right inside a crimp cover, and then just gently close it and just form it into a little larger bead. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to string on my purple bead because I want to duplicate what I have done on the other end of the bracelet, and then I am going to put another one of these 2x2 crimp tubes onto all 3 wires, and not forget to make my loop. And I'm using the pink tourmaline wire because that's what I did on this end. Oh, I'm about to make another mistake. I'm seeing the crimp tube. I'm seeing the crimp tube go into that purple bead, and I forgot that I had put a silver bead on the other end. So I was about to make another mistake, fixing one mistake. It happens. Some days are just like that. We've had a death in the family, and I've spent the last week at the hospital about 3 hours away in Sarasota, Florida. It's just been that kind of a week. You're tired from being in the hotel and from sitting around the hospital and the emotions and all the family coming in. And so, yeah, it's just been that kind of a week. So let me slow down and have a look that I am closing this side off the same way that I did the other side. All 3 wires through that tube. And I want to get it down as close as I can to the silver bead. You can use your pliers to help you. Sometimes it's, when you have so many wires in one of these tubes, sometimes it's just a simple matter of moving the wires next to each other. And now I want to do that. And I suppose it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do the pink just as I did on the other side, but these wires are all bundled together and they are not going anywhere. So if you wanted to be fun and have a different color loop on the opposite end of the bracelet, you certainly could. Usually compare the other side. I don't want giant loops. I usually just try to get them pretty close to the other side. I'm really happy with that. And so, magical crimping plier in. Pinch my 4 corners. Turn it the opposite direction. And now just go around until it is a perfect little silver bead. That is so pretty. I am in love with the magical crimping pliers. It is a wonderful tool. Now on this, since we have so many wires, when you go to snip, be careful that you don't cut the wrong wire. Ask me how I know. I think we've all done mistakes like that when we're making jewelry. So our little bracelet is complete except for the clasp. And my dog is here. It must be time for dinner. She starts bothering me around dinner time. All right, puppy. I have to finish my work and then I will come and feed you. Can I have 5 more minutes? Can I have 5 more minutes? Okay. All right. So I'm just going to take a couple of these jump rings and get my other pliers in here and put my clasp on, and then I'll show you the idea that I had. I love mixing the gold and silver. I'm going to put the lobster on this end, and I do want to use the blue flamingo for a charm on this, and it could actually go on the end, which is where I normally put them, but I want to try it in the center. could even have made a larger loop with your soft flex and just clasped your lobster claw right onto that. But since I was mixing gold and silver in this piece, I like having the little bit of gold at the end. And so this beautiful little floating bracelet is done. And now I can put my pink flamingo as a charm here. But if you wanted to braid these beautiful colorful wires, you could, but you could also put a jump ring around all 3 wires at any point. And I think I may just try that and see how it lays, just to be a little different and to feature that flamingo a little bit. So let's see if I find a little spot maybe right here where I just grab all 3. I know I haven't cleaned up my mat, so there's a lot competing with the camera focusing, but see how that looks. So you have options with where you attach your charms, and I quite like the jump ring holding all of those cords and beads kind of in place. It's really pretty. And there again, we have quite a few charms in this box. So if you wanted to make this an unusual charm bracelet, you have plenty of jump rings in the box. You could go in between and gather up the wires and add more charms and have a charm bracelet mixed with a multi-strand bracelet and a floating bead bracelet. I mean, you can just really take this design and have a lot of fun with it. I don't know if you guys can hear the airplane. That's what happens sometimes. The doorbell, an airplane goes by, the dog needs dinner, the phone rings. That is what happens when you work from home. But I will get some pictures up on this bracelet and show you how it finished out. There are tons and tons of beads left over. And so this would also make a gorgeous necklace. You could take this exact same design and do a much longer length, and this would make an absolutely stunning necklace. I am thrilled with the way this came out. I love the mix of the gold and silver for 2024 trend. I love the little blue flamingo. He's so different. I actually chose the blue instead of the pink because he's so different. And I love the rainbow colors in this without being too busy and too heavy with beads and too shocking with some of these beads like the hot pink. So this is just a really fun project, and this was actually a really fast project too, and totally beginner friendly, because if you do not have the magical crimping plier and this looks a little scary for you, you can do a regular crimp here. You can put a crimp cover over your regular crimp. You know, you can change these design elements and still get this same look. So I thank you so much for being with me today and for watching another video. I hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell notification. And I hope everybody's starting off 2024 just feeling great and with a lot of positivity in your life. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao, jewelry makers.